SEC Smothered and Covered was very big back in 2016 through 2018. It was forced to shut down for reasons that I'm still not happy about. Could not revive it, so we started from scratch, and we started from scratch with a national show. So if you like what you see, if you like what you hear, give us 5 stars, write a positive review. If you don't like what you see, hey, you know what? Give us a 1 star. Let me know what you don't like. Let us know what you don't like here. We will certainly tailor to your needs because you are the college football fan. The new media is loaded with college football content, not just on the Believe Network, but also all over the place, whether it be 24/7 or on 3 or wherever. So I urge you to go check those guys out as well because you are underserved as college football fans. We don't need to listen to stupid NBA arguments. We need college football 24/7, 365. And so here in the new media world, we will do that for you. We do have a big show today on this Friday morning. We will talk about Kirby Smart's new contract. Is he worth it? Is he not worth it? We'll break down the numbers. We will do all that as well as talk about the transfer portal. Yes, the transfer portal closed on Tuesday. However, it really kind of closed on Thursday because it does take up to 48 hours to pass through some of that paperwork through compliance. So now it is officially done. We'll talk about a winner and a loser from the transfer portal window. Hey, the show brought to you by Bet Online, your number one source for all summer sports this season, whether it be the NBA Finals, NHL Finals, Major League Baseball, golf. Bet Online has it for you. Get all the latest news, scores, and stats available for your favorite teams. You can also get odds, lines, including the latest matchups, player props, and odds on just about every sport out there. Head to the website today or use your mobile device. Go to betonline.ag, betonline.ag. That's where the game starts. Okay, let's talk about the richest man in college football, and that is, of course, Kirby Smart. Oh, and a reminder, if you do have some comments, let us know in the comments section. I will try my best to answer them as quickly and as efficiently as possible throughout the course of the next 20 or 30 minutes. So, Kirby Smart, not a surprise. Yesterday, it was approved that he got a raise and he got an extension. Now, a 10-year contract, it pays him an average of $13 million per season. He is the world's first $13 million college football coach. With Nick Saban gone, the question is who deserves it, right? Who deserves it? And is $13 million a little too much for a guy who did not even make the college football playoff last season? And the answer, of course, is yes. He's 100% worth it. Look, I wrote in my story on Outkick, which went up this morning, how back in 2013, Nick Saban made $7 million per year. That was groundbreaking back then, right? $7 million for a head football coach. That's nearly doubled in essentially a decade because that was announced in December 2013, and obviously it's May 2014. So essentially 10 off seasons, and the highest paid coach has doubled the salary. That's pretty impressive when you think about it. And so first things first, the advent of conference channels. And look, I'll throw the Big Ten out because it was groundbreaking and about 7 years ahead of its time. But you saw the SEC, you saw the Pac-12, you saw the ACC all come into effect around that time. So all the money started flowing in. It's why basketball got big around the SEC. It's why baseball got big in a variety of different places. All that money started flowing in, but it started flowing in first to the college football coaching ranks. So yes, Kirby Smart is worth every penny of this. He got 2 national titles at Georgia, the first national title since 1980, and then he backed it up in a way that was extremely emphatic with that win over TCU in Los Angeles. So you go back to last year. Was last year a failure for Georgia? Yes, because they didn't three-peat and become the first program since Minnesota in 1934 through 36 to three-peat. But there's a reason that was 1934 through 1936. It's very hard to do that, right? And so Georgia did everything that a team that normally would make the playoff did, right? A one-loss team from a Power 5 conference, specifically the SEC, generally speaking, is going to get into the 14 playoff 90% of the time. It just so happens that the landscape of college football evolved in a way where there was no open door for Georgia. Had Alabama not been the one that beat Georgia in the SEC championship game, or Auburn had beaten Alabama the week before, Georgia probably would have gotten in over Florida State. Even though in the final college football playoff rankings, Georgia was behind Florida State, which still doesn't make a lot of sense to me, because if they're talking about who would beat who on a neutral field, you're saying Alabama would beat Florida State, but Georgia wouldn't. I don't understand that, but that's neither here nor there. But the enrollment at Georgia is up. The applications it receives are up tremendously. And this is just what the market dictates for a head coach. Saban was making roughly 11.7, I think was what he raked in his final season. So, okay, that's Nick Saban. He deserves it, right? The other $10 million men, so to speak, were Dabo Swinney, or still are, Dabo Swinney, Ryan Day, Mel Tucker. Okay, Mel Tucker is ridiculous, but Dabo Swinney has 2 national championships. Ryan Day has consistently gotten Ohio State into the college football playoff, played for a national championship. I would argue was the second best team in the country back in 2022 when Georgia beat Ohio State in that dramatic semifinal in the Peach Bowl on the last second field goal. So Ryan Day, does he deserve it? Yeah, even though he doesn't have a national championship. But what's the dynasty? Who's the dynasty? And the answer is the dynasty is Georgia, so to speak. Now, I'm reluctant to call anybody a dynasty that doesn't have a national championship on its mantle from the previous season. There doesn't have to be one, right? I think Alabama fans got all mad at me a lot because I'd say during that run in the 2010s, I'd say, you know what? You're not a dynasty. You lost to Clemson, or you're not a dynasty. Florida State rules Florida college football. There doesn't have to be a dynasty all the time, right? One family doesn't have to rule over an entire country. Sometimes they do, like the royals in England, like the royals back in France, right? But if there's one that's close to it, or one that you want to lump into that category if you don't follow that definition, then it is Georgia. Because, look, 2 straight titles, one of the top 3 teams, I think, in the country. Last season, you could make an argument top 2. You really couldn't. But top 3 teams in the country. Why wouldn't Kirby Smart get that money? Why wouldn't he? If it grows exponentially, if it's doubled in value over the last decade, and the greatest college football coach retires at 11.7, isn't the natural progression 13 instead of 12? Say yes. Let's say yes. Plus, think about what he's done. He has transformed Georgia into Alabama, but done it in a better location with better players around him in an era where money flows like wine, like Dumb and Dumber, right? So I know it's easy, or it's difficult to hear, Alabama fans. I get it, but Kirby's done what Saban did and done it better, because the competition out there in terms of who's providing what resources and how they're doing it and when they're doing it is a lot more competitive now nationally than it was when Saban started to build his, and that was before the introduction of conference networks. Because think about it. Since 2014, when the SEC network came in, you've had multiple teams pop up slowly but surely. Before that, Alabama won in 11, 12. I think the 2010 Bama team was better than both of those, but they lost, 3 games? So now Georgia does exactly what Alabama does in a tougher situation with a tougher landscape, with far more hurdles to clear. And Kirby has done it consistently. And so what's interesting about this, and getting back to the financial aspect, is what happens now. Because Mel Tucker obviously is no longer at Michigan State. We know what happened there. Jim Harbaugh didn't get a chance to get a new raise because he left. Saban retired. Dabo Swinney is on a downturn for now. We'll see what happens this season. And now you have a 12-team college football playoff, which means just making it means, boom, all those salaries are going to crank up even quicker. But I'm interested now to see what happens with Dabo Swinney. Because I could see if they struggle again, could he go the Jim Harbaugh route? Because if you remember, after the 2021 season, because COVID was COVID in 2021, Michigan still didn't make the playoff. And he took a pay cut because he recognized that he was not doing what he needed to do. Do you think that'll happen with Dabo Swinney? I don't. Knowing how his agent operates, I think that it would be very unlikely that it would happen. But would he get an extension? No. Would he fall behind a lot of other coaches in the world of college football? Absolutely. And I'm talking about Lane Kiffin if Ole Miss makes the playoff. Talking about Brian Kelly, who's already near that. I think he's at 9-9 right now. If LSU makes the playoff. Like, Dabo Swinney could be in trouble. Dabo Swinney could be one of those guys where, you know, while everybody else is lapping him, he's kind of just stuck in neutral and may even have to take a pay cut, or at least be asked to take a pay cut, or at the very least give up some controls. So that's what all of this sort of ties back into Kirby Smart. Yes, he deserves the $13 million, but also it's going to accelerate coaching contracts at a level that we have never seen. Barring another pandemic or something else that absolutely ruins the financial market, which, depending on the election, might happen, then you're looking at a $20 million college football coach by 2028. I'll mark it down right there. A $20 million college football coach by 2028. I think that it's aggressive, but it's fair. And I think we're headed there. I really do. Because of this man. This man. Look at him smiling. Look at him smiling. Kirby Smart making 13, I should say, $13 million a year. Hey, speaking of Georgia fans, you can get this great t-shirt from Breaking Tea. Go to breakingtea.com/smothered and covered. breakingtea.com/smothered and covered. It's Stetson Bennett with the mic drop mailman. It's pretty simple. It's like those posters you see, political ads all over the place. Nice little cartoon version of Stetson Bennett. Go to breakingtea.com/smothered and covered. You can get this bad boy or basically anything else you want. As a college football fan, they've got college football shirts from all over the place, whether it be individual shirts through the NIL process like this one, or just basic shirts that shows your fandom for your school. And of course, you can wear the moment if something viral happens. Breaking Tea will have that up very, very quickly. Go to breakingtea.com/smothered and covered. The portal window is closed. Finally, the portal window is closed. Honestly, was surprised that we didn't get more movement in the spring window. I did not think, and I know a lot of folks predicted that it was going to be the Wild Wild West. I didn't necessarily buy into that in terms of the quarterbacks, but we did have a lot of position players, skill players announce that they were leaving, and a lot of them have not committed anywhere yet. So we'll see what happens moving forward. But now that the portal window is actually closed, yes, it ended Tuesday, but 48 hours is Thursday. Got to get that paperwork through. So now it is officially closed as of midnight this morning. Who are the winners and losers? Who are the winners and losers? we've already talked a lot of Georgia, and Jaden Rashada is the golden goose, right? So Georgia fans, don't at me. I've already talked a lot about Georgia. We're 15 minutes in. Holy crap, 1,000 of you watching live. Hello, thank you for watching. If you're mad at me, Georgia fans, yes, it's Jaden Rashada. But somebody we absolutely have to talk about, a team that I think is going to be very sneaky and could, I think, very easily make the college football playoff if it wins the Big 12, and that is Kansas State. Kansas State's getting Dylan Edwards. Are we overlooking how important this is? Because this is a guy, when you combine him with Avery Johnson, this offense at Kansas State is going to be phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. Because Dylan Edwards is a dude that can make a ton of impact, a huge impact. Over 300 yards, the leading rusher at Colorado last season, 299 yards receiving, a Swiss Army knife, a fantastic Swiss Army knife. And what does Kansas State need? Kansas State's used those Swiss Army knives all the time. The entire Lockett family, it seems like, has been a Swiss Army knife in Manhattan. But you put him in an offense with Avery Johnson taking the snaps. And for those of you who don't know who that is, get to know him. He is going to be phenomenal. He's the guy who beat out Will Howard for the starting job for the Wildcats. Now Will Howard apparently is going to be the Ohio State starting quarterback, which I think is absolutely insane and could wreck Ohio State's season. But that's a different talking point and a different conversation for a different show. We've had that show like 10 times. So go back in the archives. You can find it. It's there. My Will Howard disdain is well documented. But you put Dylan Edwards with Avery Johnson. This is that's an offense that is going to be almost impossible for the Big 12 to slow down. All right. So what does that mean for Kansas State? I've said since the 12-team playoff became a full-time thing. Well, let's put it this way. When the season ended, we had to do our 12-team predictions. And I was still at CBS at the time. It was before I left. And I had Oklahoma State as the number 4 seed in the playoff because they were the winners of the Big 12, or they win the Big 12. And the other group of 5 conferences didn't have enough juice to unseat the Big 12 champion. So I had Oklahoma State in there. I debated having Utah as the Big 12 champion. Certainly had Big 12 in my playoff, in my 12-team format. Now, do I put Kansas State in? I think the answer is yes. Depending on what happens between now and week 0, I think keep Kansas State in there and drop Utah out. And the reason is Dylan Edwards, Johnson together, going to be almost impossible to stop. And then with Utah, what are you getting with Cam Rising? What are you getting with Cam Rising? The Big 12 is going to be fascinating, folks. Ladies and gentlemen, I think the Big 12 is the most intriguing conference in college football this year. I cannot wait to see how this goes down. And Dylan Edwards going to Kansas State is a big deal. Maybe one of the biggest deals, maybe the biggest development of the spring transfer portal window. So I can't wait to see it. Biggest loser, this is no shock. It's Colorado. I mean, losing Cormani McClain is a massive deal. Just an absolutely massive deal. And look, I know Colorado's been in the news a lot, and it feels like people are piling on. And to an extent, I think people are piling on. But when all is said and done, you got to keep your stars. You got to keep your studs. And Colorado's not doing that. They're just not. So biggest loser is the Colorado Buffaloes. That will do it for this edition of College Football Smothered and Covered. Appreciate you checking out the show. This show, of course, brought to you by betonline.ag. Go to betonline.ag for all your summer fun. We will talk to you on Monday. Have a great weekend.